I just learned something. It turns out that Chat GPT now has a plus. So the thing that terrified us all, the AI driven, you get to talk to the computer thing, now it's got a subscription option. Steve, have you signed up yet?
No, I have not
You don't want to
yet.
pay money to be terrified by a computer?
I don't need to be paid money. They're already terrifying.
Oh, we're going to be talking about artificial intelligence and machine learning today. In fact, some of the problems with it, the biases that come out. And yeah, actually, I had a really interesting interaction with Chat GPT when it first came out. It got some things wrong, and then it just pretended like it didn't. It was just like, oh, well, yeah, I'm not well enough trained yet. It's all good. So it's funny how much that relates to what we're going to be talking about later today with artificial intelligence and machine learning biases, because these things get trained on models. They're only as good as the models they were given. What if those models are wrong? That's exactly what we're up against. We'll be talking about that, a whole bunch of other news items, and just a few minutes of video, last bit of video from the MD&M Tradeshow in Anaheim, California, earlier this month, introducing you to some Michigan companies. All that and more coming up on MedTech Crossroads. All right, I just want to mention, we told you in previous weeks that we are on YouTube, Zoom, Live, as well as Spotify. But as of this week, you can listen on Apple Podcasts and Google Podcasts. All of those are available to you. All past episodes are available on Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. Let's talk about the upcoming events. We like to call these from various sources, including MEDC, MishBio, Project MedTech, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration themselves, Ann Arbor Spark, and the Regulatory Affairs Professional Society. There is going to be a delegation going to Capitol Hill at the beginning of March, talking to legislators about issues that have been identified for the medical industry by AdvaMed. From Michigan, that'll be led by Steve Rapundolo of MishBio, and we're going to get to go see what's happening on Capitol Hill. I got to do one of these back in 2016, and it's amazing where some of these issues come down and how traditional party lines just don't describe what's actually happening there. And some of these issues are ones that you're not going to hear about on the news. So we're hoping in coming weeks to bring some of these items to you. The A2 Biosocial's happening on March 7th at Pretzel Bell in Ann Arbor. Get in touch with Matthew Himes. The Resi Conference, March 14th through 16th, early stage investment. The MedCon Conference, co-sponsored by the FDA, coming to Columbus, Ohio in April. Good time to go to Columbus. April 25th through 27th, I guess you're going to have to pick, also in Dublin, Ireland, MedTech Strategist Innovation Summit. And coming up May 15th, the 2023 Michigan Life Sciences Showcase, put on by MishBio. It looks like they're going to be putting a whole bunch of things together. Their medical device summit, their drug discovery symposium, their patient advocacy forum, their cannabis science symposium, and their digital health forum. Looks like they're bringing those all together at the same event. AdvaMed is putting on a 510K IDE and PMA submissions workshop in the middle of May. In fact, that's 3 workshops. Pick the one you're most interested in. And coming up in August, Project MedTech in Cleveland, Ohio, the Midwest Showcase. Additionally, the MedTech Conference, October 9th through 11th at the Anaheim Convention Center. We'll be taking you there today, actually, in Anaheim, California. And then October 25th and 26th, the Startup Symposium in Houston, Texas, at Texas Medical Center. Also a Project MedTech initiative. There's an AI summit coming in November to Columbus, Ohio, and the Eye and the Chip 2023 coming October 8th through 10th at the Southfield Westin Hotel, where the nexus of cognition and eyesight and microprocessing comes together here in the great state of Michigan. That's the quick rundown of the news. Next up, of the events. Next up, we're going to be talking about FDA and industry news. Is your hand sanitizer on the list of FDA's products that you should not use? Let me say that again. Is your hand sanitizer on FDA's list of products you should not use? I've got a bottle of hand sanitizer here. One's been lying around the office. We're actually going to use this here in a minute for a little show and tell. Why are we talking about this? Well, back during the emergency use authorization days during the public health emergency, it made a lot of sense. Grab the hand sanitizer, squirt it on, use it. Couldn't possibly hurt, right? Well, that may not be the case. And for those of you who are still squirting hand sanitizer on, this is actually really, I don't think this was front and center for a lot of us. But FDA is going no holds barred, trying to communicate to people. FDA regulates hand sanitizer as an over-the-counter drug. Yep, we knew that, without a prescription. But they got some concerns. Contamination with potentially toxic types of alcohol. And they don't mean that only if you drink it. There's types of alcohol that are toxic, even if you just rub them onto your skin a lot. There are some that come without enough active ingredient, which means they don't actually sanitize. Or labels with false, misleading, or unproven claims. All of these are concerns that the agency has. And they've actually gone so far as to create a helpful infographic. You can get to it at fda.gov/hand sanitizer list. Hand sanitizers that consumers should not use. This is, here's the list right here. Look how many times they've updated this. There's 150 products on this list. And this is going right back to FDA's roots, the whole snake oil. Oh no, we're selling things and they don't do what we've said they do. They've updated this thing like 20 times. Down at the bottom, there's a little search box. But the main point here, if we go back to this other page, is the contents that they're really concerned about are methanol and 1-propanol. So if you've got a hand sanitizer and it's got ethyl alcohol or isopropyl alcohol, that's cool. We're good. Those are safe. Those are acceptable as hand sanitizer ingredients. But if you think to yourself, well, it says hand sanitizer and it's sold in the US, it must be safe, and you start rubbing it on your skin, it turns out that this methyl and 1-propyl alcohols, and there's at least 150 items on this list, you start rubbing them on there, they can absorb through your skin and they're not good for you. So I thought it'd be kind of fun just to do a quick search here on the search box on FDA's website. Again, it's fda.gov/hand sanitizer list. The distributor of this, actually the manufacturer, Germ-X, we're not recommending or saying anything bad about them. We're just using them as an example here. We're going to plug in Germ-X into their thing. And it looks like Germ-nothing there. So good, that's good. My Germ-X is probably good. There's a distributor on the back. Let's plug the distributor in. It's Vijon. Okay. I get Vi- and nothing shows up. So that's good. I can keep using this hand sanitizer. I might use a little bit right now. There we go. Got my hand sanitizer. Rub it in right next to the microphone. There you go. But it was kind of impressive that 150 products out there being sold in the U.S. Have methyl or 1-propyl alcohol, which is toxic stuff. So have a look before you start rubbing it on your hands. Wow, that one smells good. All right, next up. We're talking about artificial intelligence here. And so many folks come and they say, I want to incorporate AI, ML, I want machine learning in my product. This article from MedTech Dive, although we're going to take you to the referenced journal article behind it. AI is a problem. We've got friends in the local ecosystem who study this and have come to us and said, I think even said on the show before, I believe it's the folks of the Weil Institute, have been studying what happens when AI and ML just get used in the wild. And it turns out that it's not always as good as you think it is, because these models are trained on data sets, right? They're interpolating in a data set. FDA's entire regulatory process is based on bounding things and testing them and showing that what you've tested is safe and effective for its intended use. But what happens when you have a tool whose express purpose is to go outside of that data set? When the tool is intended to extrapolate, how can you ever validate that? And of course, there's a lot of different opinions about this. The authors of the Journal of Science, Policy, and Governance article that we'll be referencing here say that there just needs to be a new way to regulate artificial intelligence and machine learning models. Now, that may or may not be the case, but we'll go with it here for today. They are urging the Food and Drug Administration to create a regulatory process to prevent AI-driven software as a medical device from exacerbating health disparities. That's the interesting part. It's this part about exacerbating health disparities that we're going to focus on today, because I think it's a really pertinent point. We saw this before with things like pulse oximeters, right? Pulse oximeters have been around for a long time. It turns out if you're white, they work pretty well on you. If you have fair skin, they work pretty well on you because they were built using data from that demographic. What happens if you have darker skin? They don't necessarily give the right reading because they weren't validated on that data set. And that's a big problem, because the color of my skin shouldn't be a determiner in whether I know what my pulse oxygenation is. But the technology doesn't know. It just sees the changes in the intensities. And so you have to take that into account when you're designing your product. Well, let's think about that with artificial intelligence and machine learning. When you have an AI model and you train it on data, and that data isn't representative of the demographics of the entire country, we have a problem brewing. Now, they use this as a justification to say that we need to have a different path. I don't know if that necessarily follows. We'll talk about that. But the point that they're making about health disparities is well worth our time. So this article here from Perelman School of Medicine, Mailman School of Public Health, Oregon Health and Science University, University of Pennsylvania. These are the authors here. And they talk about promoting health equity through improved regulation of artificial intelligence medical devices. We're going to focus on the health equity portion of this, because it comes right down to when we're designing a device, we're designing a product, we need to take into account, FDA has been saying this for years, we have to take into account the demographic that the device is being used with. They start out talking about racial and ethnic health disparities that persist despite attempts to change it. They talk about some of the numbers behind those disparities. We won't necessarily go into those. But then they note that technology can assist with medical diagnosis and clinical decision-making. So there are studies that show that, for example, in the pediatric field, AI-based algorithms can streamline test ordering. You can get faster results, 22% faster. Your pediatric patient, your kid, is going to get their answer 22% faster. And if the demographic that the model was trained on is correct, you're going to get the results you expect and everything's going to be great. Sounds good. But that's if it's designed properly. You could even reduce disparities in healthcare, they say. But it also has the potential to amplify healthcare bias and further exacerbate racial and ethnic health disparities. Because AI technology learns from data biases in the data set. So if a minority group is underrepresented, we didn't actually get as many of them as there are in the actual population, you're going to give answers that are not representative of the general population. This is the software version of sort of what happened with pulse oximeters. And so we have this problem that they're calling out. Now, they go on to say they think that this should result in changes in the regulation. We need a new pathway for artificial intelligence and machine learning models. And so here they say, well, will the AI technology be used to treat, diagnose, cure, mitigate, or prevent disease? That's very similar to the definition of a medical device. And they are calling for this option 1 sidebar here. Okay. There's a few different options here. They're basically saying we're gonna stack something next to the current FDA approval process. Okay, we're going to leave that aside. We're not going to talk the policy here, but acknowledging that this is a problem, these health disparities, these equity disparities, because you're not training the models on representative data, and then you're asking it to interpolate on something that's not representative of your population, it's going to be an issue. And it's going to be an increasing issue because here the number of FDA-approved artificial intelligence and machine learning enabled software as a medical device is skyrocketing. There were none in roughly 2000. Now in 2020, 2023, we're up to nearly 400. I think that number is actually higher now. And so this is going to be a problem we're going to continue to see. The question that I would raise, and for all of you who are engaged in healthcare delivery, development of devices and products, everybody in our innovation ecosystem, especially here in the great state of Michigan, but anywhere you may be listening to this, you gotta think about your user. I feel like this is almost the topic of what we talk about every single time. You gotta think about your user. And if there's some way that the demographics of your users are going to change the outcomes of the product, you have to incorporate that up front. That's part of the design controls process for developing a medical device. It's part of what FDA expects you to look at when you're developing a product. And so here with artificial intelligence and machine learning devices, it's absolutely no different. It's a major concern. And if something about me and my culture and my heritage and what makes me me didn't get incorporated into that model, now the model interpolates and it really misses out, I'd like to know about that. So it's a good warning. Since this one's a hot topic, we'll just take and see if there's any comments or questions on this one. We'll just leave that open for a moment in case any hands get raised or comments want to get made. Looks like our friend Ken Spencer, if we can get his sound into the studio here, has a comment. Ken, I know you guys have been doing a lot of work on this at Weil Institute.
Yes, we have. And I mean, you're exactly right. The things that can affect the model not only are your initial data set, of course, but the procedures can change that the clinicians use. Even your target user can change out there, right? And you have age, you have gender, all that stuff. And interestingly enough, the FDA is aware, and we have seen this ourselves, that even if all of that is correct, as you eliminate false positives, your performance can actually decline on the model. So this is why we've been so hot on pushing forward monitor capability to keep track of that.
Yeah, it's a really important topic, and you were the first one to bring it to my attention, Ken, along with your colleagues there at Weil, because I don't think it's going away. Like AI is not going away. People are going to keep doing it, pressing towards the promise of it, and you always have to try some things that ultimately didn't work. But there's a danger because if you just start releasing these things, saying, "Hey, we proved it works for this subset," well, there's a whole nother superset out there that maybe we're not thinking about. Well, I appreciate your comment there, Ken, and I think we'll, obviously be continuing to follow this. Now, at a personal level, this is just me speaking for myself. I was raised by a statistician. I'd like to think I know how to look at data sets just a little bit. And extrapolation, or as they say in the finance industry, Past performance is not indicative of future results. There's something basic here that I just don't know if we've wrestled with as a society, that we seem to keep thinking we can extrapolate without worry. And maybe within reason you can predict a little bit outside of where you are with some probability associated with it. And that's good. But at a personal level, this is just me, not speaking for anybody else. I do worry about too quickly adding to the regulatory framework for these things, because I got to understand what they are. And that's where all this good research needs to be done. So that's artificial intelligence and machine learning. Next up, this is the one that may have brought many of you here today. And this one actually sort of took my breath away when I saw it. If it weren't so tragic as an engineer, I would almost find it humorous, but it really is tragic. Examples of medical device misconnections. Now, many times in our own practice, people will come to us and they'll say, I need a luer fitting. Now, if you don't know what a luer fitting is, it's that thing that you saw on the syringes in the doctor's office, or on the syringes in the lab that you took in high school, right? It's that little either shove on or twist on taper that allows you to connect a syringe and a needle together. Most needles have these on them. And things like lures, although not exclusive to lure fittings, are used all over the place to connect medical devices and components together, especially with tubing. And if you've ever been in a hospital, you've seen and you see all the tubing going all over the place, and oftentimes there are lure fittings on the end of those. Not exclusively, but that's certainly a common one. Let's look at just a couple examples here of what can go wrong. Again, as they say in this picture, this is not how these things should be hooked up. But here's a case study. An anesthetist, I'm going to say that word, an anesthetist and a midwife. So this is a labor and delivery suite. This is tragic. Mistakenly connected an epidural set for numbing, from the waist down during labor and delivery to the patient's IV tubing. So I'm just going to say right up front, I probably should have said it a minute ago. Some of this could be kind of hard to listen to. So if you have a hard time talking or thinking about medical situations, this is what we're going to be talking about for the next few minutes. Feel free to tune back in if it bothers you. The epidural medicine was delivered to the IV, so it's going right into their bloodstream. What was supposed to be just a numbing agent delivered there. And the patient died. It's absolutely tragic. All because they put the wrong connector on. It's not that these devices shouldn't have been in place. They should have been in place. But they connected the wrong things together. Now, the agency says here, this is all from FDA. Just keep in mind, this is the FDA saying, here's what we think you should be doing. Tips to reduce device misconnections. This is for the nurses and the doctors. For certain high-risk catheters, label the catheter and do not use catheters that have injection ports. Okay, from a device design standpoint, there's not a lot more to be said there. They're sort of accepting that these things are what they are. Here's another one. IV tubing erroneously connected to tracheostomy cuff. Again, the pictures represent what not to do. A connector that it looks like we have an issue here. This is a child. Pediatric intensive care unit. Had both an IV line and a trach tube. So you see those both right here. This is a model. This is not the patient. The IV tubing was mistakenly connected to the trach cuff port. The IV fluid overexpanded the trach cuff to the point of breaking, and the continuous IV fluids entered the child's lungs. The child died. It's absolutely tragic stuff. Emphasize the risk of tubing misconnections in orientation and training. Oh, yeah, good. I think this is really important. I'm glad that they've taken the time to create these graphics. I hope this kind of thing, maybe if you're watching this and you're in the innovation ecosystem and a nurse or a doctor or something, I'm sure they're getting trained on this, but FDA is trying to get the word out there too. IV tubing erroneously connected to a nebulizer during nebulizer treatment. This one's good. The misconnection was identified by the respiratory therapist, and the patient did survive, but the harm potential is still very high. And here we start to get to where the punchline is going to be today. They're saying, do not purchase non-intravenous equipment that is equipped with connectors that can physically mate or attach with a female lure IV line connector. In other words, they're starting to say, if you have a lure, we're trying to say that's for intravenous use, right? We should have other connectors for other purposes. Now this is starting to make some sense. Oxygen tubing, air embolism. Even though the connection was broken within seconds, the patient died. This list goes on and on and on. There's many, many examples. Nasal cannula, congestive heart failure, another fatal air embolism, syringe erroneously connected to a tracheostomy cuff, enteral feeding tube erroneously connected to a ventilator with death as the result. Air embolus. Putting the wrong fluids into the wrong place creates dramatic problems. So we won't belabor these issues. These are dangerous, horrible things to have had happen. But I'll spare you the rest of the details on this. This list just keeps going and going and going and going. What do you do about this? How do you fix this problem? Well, here's the direction that industry is going. And this is worth knowing about, especially if you're in the innovation space. Because if you say, I've got this device and it's going to handle air, it's going to handle fluid in a hospital setting, you should know about this. What's this? ISO 80369, small bore connector standards. This document right here is from Cosina, a little bit of, I guess, marketing for Cosina there, to show you that they're thinking about it. They make a lot of these fittings. So it's good for them to be involved in this. But notice this, they've created a family of standards, not Cosina, but industry has. The -6 version of that standard is for the spine. Okay, spinal connectors. The -7 is for artery and veins. The -2 is for airway. See what we're doing here? The -3 is for stomach. The -4 is for urethra. The -5 is for tourniquets and blood pressure cuffs. That means when we're in different parts of the body, we're not going to be using the same connector. Oh, this is good. This I like. I think this is getting us in the right direction we want to be going. They note here, this is Cosina's language, numerous devices and systems use the universal lure lock connector, which is a type of small bore connector. A small bore connector is defined as having an ID of less than 8.5 millimeters, and as a lure is defined by these ISO standards. But through this connector, a healthcare worker or patient could mistakenly connect one device used for one application, such as enteral nutrition, to another device used for another application, such as intravenous therapy, just what we saw. So they're breaking it up into these different areas. Again, general and testing, but then respiratory, enteral feeding. Urinary and urethral, it's not happening yet. That one's been postponed. Limb cuffs, neuraxial, I think that was the spine one. Intravascular or hypodermic. And they've got some common test methods that they're going to be using. So next time you hear about a group saying we're going to do some design and we're going to be in the respiratory, enteral feeding, urinary, limb cuff, neuraxial, that is spine, or intravascular or hypodermic spaces, maybe let them know that this exists. FDA has now recognized it, and they're moving in this direction saying, this is a big problem, folks. Connecting the wrong things together matters. Yes, we've got to train doctors and nurses while they're working in the space, help them do their best to prevent misconnections. But I think the future is full of application-specific connectors so that you can't put them together and have these outcomes. All right, next up, radiation-emitting products. This I found interesting. You know, as news items come up, we call these news items from what comes through the email inbox, from CDRH, from FDA, from CBER, from CEDAR, from all the different groups. And if it catches our eye and says this applies to our life, we kind of think maybe it will to yours too. If you're especially in the innovation space, if you're in the finance space for medical technologies, if you're in our ecosystem mentoring people and talking to people about how to push their ideas forward, we want to help you. So we're going to talk about radiation-emitting products, and radiation-emitting products are not just CT scanning machines. It's not just laser surgical tools. There's a lot of stuff, and this may come as a surprise. FDA regulates radiation-emitting products, period. I mean, if it's not a medical device, but it emits radiation, FDA regulates it? Yeah, turns out that it applies to all radiation-emitting products because that is regulated under the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act. So, whether or not you're a medical device, you have to comply with this if you're a radiation-emitting product. Now, electronic product radiation could mean ionizing or non-ionizing or particulate radiation. It could mean any sonic, infrasonic, ultrasonic wave which is emitted. And they define here what an electronic product is that is subject to this. And they note here most radiation-emitting products are not considered to be medical devices, right? But if you make any medical claims, your product is a medical device. They say that right here. If you make any medical claims, your product is a medical device. And it's also subject to the provisions of the FDA Act for medical devices, in addition to the provision for radiation-emitting products. So you're going to get to talk to the FDA if you emit radiation and if you're a medical device. So here's some examples. File this away for some time. Television receivers, accelerators, X-ray machines, no surprise there. Electron microscopes, neutron generators. Yeah, I don't have one of those in my garage. But ultraviolet spectrum, biochemical and medical analyzers, tanning and therapeutic lamps, sanitizing and sterilizing devices, blacklight sources, welding equipment, white light devices. What about infrared alarm systems, diathermy units, dryers, ovens, and heaters, as well as all sorts of things that use microwave, alarm systems, diathermy, dryers, ovens, heaters, microwave power generating devices, medico-biological heaters, radar devices, remote control devices, signal generators, radio and low frequency. The list really goes on for quite a ways here. I won't read them all to you. But here's the upshot. If you're bringing products to market and they involve radiation, FDA is going to regulate them. If they're also medical devices, FDA is going to regulate them additionally. But those two areas are covered by the agency and are the kinds of things that you're going to have to go through regulations on. And FDA is your one-stop shop for all those things. So there's some examples, and it might surprise you to find out that some companies that aren't making medical claims still have to go to the FDA. Well, that's our news for today. Some kind of crazy stuff out there. But as always, our point here is to walk you through what is happening. How does the latest that FDA and industry are focusing on affect what folks do in the delivery of new healthcare technologies? Matters to us. I think it matters to a lot of you. We're happy to answer any questions you may have. We'll pause here since we're at the end of this segment before we take you to a very short video from Anaheim that we're going to be showing you. But if there's any questions or comments, we're happy to take them at this point. I'll just do a quick check. out here in the wide world, since we're now on so many services. It's very different for us. But not seeing any questions. We are going to take you next to the video that we took. It's a bunch of groups from the state of Michigan who each had kiosks at the MEDC, Michigan Economic Development Corporation, booth at the MD&M trade show. Now, there were, I believe, about 76 Michigan companies. We're not going to show you all 76 on the trade show floor. But of those, I think we have 7 here who are actually located at the MEDC booth, representing not only their own services and products, but also the state of Michigan. And it's amazing when you're there with a state representation, how many people just come up and say, I studied in Michigan, I grew up in Michigan, I was born in Michigan. I wanted to come by and just reconnect with some people from my state. It's amazing what an emotional connection that makes, beyond a number of people coming up and saying, hey, I might need what you're offering there. And what a great way to bring things to the state of Michigan. So enjoy this little short video. It's about 3 minutes long. I'll be right back with you from MD&M West in Anaheim, California a few weeks ago.
They're aligning volume here.
Welcome, my name is George Tank. I'm the sales manager for Evosis for North America. What we do here, we make flexible systems for laser plastic welding. We're the OEM. We're bringing manufacturing to Michigan here come summer. And the reason why we're here in Michigan is because we work primarily with the automotive tier 1, and the medical industry is very prime. We love to work with you. Come reach out to us here in Michigan and Auburn Hills.
Hi, my name is Laura Coates. I'm the quality manager at Keystone Solutions Group. I love Keystone because of the partnerships that we create with our customers. I love Michigan because I love the changing of the seasons. And for Keystone, I think the resources that we have available to us here are great.
Hi, I'm Connor Jansky. I work for InnovaTech Automation. We're an automation group based out of Macomb, Michigan. We do everything from 3D printed fixtures all the way to custom automation cells. I love Michigan because of the diverse sector of manufacturing we do have in Michigan.
Sure, Ralph Basile. I'm the Vice President of Marketing and Regulatory Affairs for Healthmark Industries. What we have are products related to the cleaning, disinfection, sterilization of clinically used medical devices. Deliver safe, ready-to-use instruments that are clean, disinfected, and sterilized. One of the things I think that people don't realize, but us employers in Michigan do, the incredible talent pool that's available. I mean, we've got great universities, we've got great programs.
Hi, my name is Brian. I'm the COO of MediSurge. MediSurge is a contract manufacturer that has the ability to distribute product into the government with our family of companies called Alliant Healthcare Products. So we have the ability to incubate, design, develop, manufacture, and we have a government distribution channel that's a part of our company. Why do I love Michigan? Michigan is a beautiful four-season state that is not overly populated.
Hi, I'm Chris Delling, Field Sales Manager for Humanetics. Humanetics is a supplier of strain gauge-based sensors, custom fiber optic materials, and laser micromachining product. Being in Michigan is something I've been in Michigan my whole life. Love the area, love the environment, love the Great Lakes. Wouldn't trade it for the world.
So that's the last of the videos from MD&M West, Medical Device and Manufacturing West. The AdvaMed conference is going to be back at that same facility, so they're getting a lot of medical technology use out there in California. But that's just about it for MedTech Crossroads today. I hope you enjoyed the news items and everything else. We're looking forward to spring somewhere around the corner. Hope everyone survived. If you're in the state of Michigan here, you know that there's a good chance that you or someone you know is without power. I think the most recent was 600,000 people still without power here on Friday, a day and a half after the storms really went through. So I hope you're all staying safe, and stay warm and dry, and make it through whatever is left of winter. Oh my goodness. Looking forward to spring. Hope you are too. We'll see you next week on the show.